why is it that it seems that when you go to a forest that there's an extreme amount of divinity there? Mm-hmm. You know, if it's something to be shunned and got away from, you know, why the trees seem to know something that we don't? Or, you know, why is there something that I can recognize? Part of me that I recognize as God is very, very prevalent in trees.
You know, from McCool and eating the hazelnuts, and hazelnuts are this they're big in Celtic lore. Like they're hard to eat, they're hard to open, so it's all about the challenge of getting it and eating it, and there's wisdom in it by eating it, and there's always hazelnut groves around where there was rituals and stuff like that. And then learning that like the druids are supposed to have walking around with hazel sticks rather than oak sticks and stuff like that. So like having that kind of connection in your backyard.
Welcome to the Spirit Box podcast, where we explore folklore, magic, and the world of the spirits, and everything in between. For episode 74, we have our first Trialogue in quite some time, and we're joined by Tommie Kelly and Spud Murphy, the hosts of the Tommie and Spud Talk About podcast, amongst many other things. In the show, we discuss finding the divine in nature, the struggle of working with nature in very tangible terms, in terms of tending to a garden. And we chat about things like St. Martin's Day and the concepts of blood sacrifice versus green sacrifice in kind of medieval Christianity in Britain and Ireland. And we talk about St. Martin's Day and the use of blood in magic, in terms of St. Martin's Day, in terms of folk magic, but then we discuss it in a more broad sense. In the Plus show, we get into personal relationships with deities, concepts of the afterlife, and we talk about vegetables a bit more. Not content to have mined that particular theme in the regular show, we go at it again. So if that can't tempt you, I don't know what else can. And if you'd like to hear the Plus show, then sign up for the Patreon for the extended show and a host of other benefits. Before we start, a big thank you to Ank patron members: Icaro, William O, Robert W, Roland B, Steph, Tim, Tao, Way, Pamela, Michelle, Marilee, Marco, Jen, Hannah, Flora, Eric, Desiree, Austin, Ali, Carrie S, Brennan, Tyler, Madeline, Jorge, Tony. Thank you, each and every one of you, for all your support. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Now, if you'd like to support the show, where Patreon isn't your thing, you can always buy me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Or you can give me a positive review. Every 5-star rating helps. I'm always interested in people's experiences with the other, from hauntings to the shadow people. So you got a story to tell? Then I'd love to hear from you. Okay, that's it for me. Now on with the show.
Yes, and I have it leave before.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that, I was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like when that, that big robotic voice. Spud, Tommie, you're very welcome to the Spirit Box.
Hi.
How are you there?
Hi there. How are you?
Got the first all Irish Trialogue.
People say about the previous times we've talked about is that it's like overhearing two people in the pub. Yeah. So I'm going to just add 33 and a third percent to that.
Yeah, totally.
I think so.
33 and a third. Yo, cho.
It's the level of the quality of our conversation that it's like overhearing a couple of boozers.
Yeah.
So lads, you're very welcome, and I really appreciate your time coming on the show. And what I wanted to talk to today, I know we had a bit of a preamble before we hit record around just how your own spiritual practice or your own magical practice or whatever it is you do has kind of evolved, or maybe taken kind of a more involved in place type of turn, where kind of like you're reacting more with your environment, or you're being more part of your environment, the natural environment, and how that's kind of come about. And just to give some context to the listeners, I've seen kind of the stuff, Tommie, you were doing with like elderberries and what have you, and foraging, and Spud, you mentioned kind of using the hazelnuts in your home, and the difference in that food Like when you're ingesting it, or you're fucking eating it. Jesus, ingesting it.
Yeah. When you're ingesting the foods, do you find it more magical? Well, I could definitely start on that, unless Spud has something he wants to quickly jump in. One of the things that was happening, I suppose, with my kind of outlook magically, and since I suppose it started, there's this kind of a thing where, the world is an illusion, that, that it's Maya, it's a dream, it's something to wake up from, it's the physical is kind of profane, it's to be ignored, shunned even, or, and all that, like, very, in one sense, probably true, in another sense, not very helpful, and I don't think it is actually that true. But I had that because I kind of originally came from, obviously, like, as most of us, I suppose, in one sense, it came from like a sort of a more new age than an actual magic background, just because you couldn't get the magic books here. You could get a couple of Louise L. Hay books and something like, something that, the Monk Sold His Ferrari or whatever that book is, all those kind of type books. So you only had access to your spirituality was kind of new age spirituality for a long while. And that is very much new age. This is an illusion. This is a real world. And even I suppose in that growing up Christian as well, this is the punishment. This is the place to eventually get away from and go to a real home somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think what kind of happens with that is there's all of the kind of magic, earth-based materia kind of stuff, or, stuff that you would have had with, say, the Druids, maybe, we don't really know, or the Celts, or especially things like the witchcraft and all of the stuff where they're working within seasons and they're working with the earth and they're working kind of, all seemed to, it seemed to be something that I couldn't engage with, because ultimately I thought, well, this, you're not meant to engage with the sinful earth, or, you're meant to get past it or whatever. But then over the last couple of years, and particularly last 2 years anyway, I kind of had a twist in that where it goes, no, I don't. Why is it that it seems that when you go to a forest that there's an extreme amount of divinity there? If it's something to be shunned and got away from, why do the trees seem to know something that we don't? Or, why is there something that I can recognize? Part of me that I recognize as God is very, very prevalent in trees, or in the spirit of the forest, or, or whatever. And it was kind of, I couldn't really balance those two things, because the indoctrination of my Catholic upbringing and my New Age self-indoctrination, kind of, I still don't get, don't be attracted to this stuff. Don't indulge in the profane and that. But it's like, another part of my brain is going, but I really like it, and it really makes me feel close to God, or close to divinity, or whatever word we want to use for this kind of thing. So I definitely try to cultivate a deliberate attempt to connect with the earth, and connect with forests, and connect with trees, and connect with plants, and leading, I suppose, to recently a kind of, when you know something, but then one day you know it, kind of way. So I had the kind of thing of that. If all of this is, if non-duality is to be taken seriously, then there isn't a separation between this place and God. So therefore, everything in this place is divine, and so it's it's not somewhere that God is outside of. Whatever. I know people don't like the word God, and I don't particularly like it myself, but it's the word we have. So there you go. And so, just trying to keep, trying to unplug from the matrix or whatever. And go, no, well, actually, all of this is here, and this is where you're going to find God, not outside of it. So then obviously the natural thing is to find out more about trees, find out more about the stuff that's around you. And then you kind of look around, you see like, there's elderberry trees, loads of them around me, there's blackberries, there's all of these things that are in your locale that you would have, I didn't even know, it's literally a million elderberry trees around my garden, around my house, and plentiful, and we spent, a couple of hours one day last week just collecting them all, been here 12 years. And
have you made, to ask the Irish question, have you made the champagne with it yet? There's a mate of mine makes elderberry champagne. Man, it's gorgeous.
Really?
That's from the flowers though, isn't it, rather than the berries though, isn't it?
You're dead right there. You're dead right there.
But,
flowers are start of the summer, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes to show, like, there's like even the cyclical nature of it, even in that one plant, is that like there's like, from the flowers to the berries to, well, I mean, the elder, it's the elder statesman and all that. No, I've made a syrup, which is really, really good, and it's perfect for us now because it's great to boost your immunization and not your immunization, your what's that self-healing thing?
Is it 5G resistance?
Your immune system.
It's 5G resistance. Okay, yeah.
Well done, Dara, and actually knowing words. Your immune system. So it boosts that, and it's like a tonic for colds, flus, and a general kind of a bit like an echinacea. Only you have to cook the berries though, because there's something in it that can be poisonous. Not in every variation of it, but unless you really know what you're doing, just cook them because it's easy. But you just cook them up, boil them up, put honey in it, and then stick it in your fridge and stick it in a yogurt. Takes
awesome.
And it's lovely, and it looks exactly like the raspberry stuff that you used to get in ice creams. That's exactly the way it ends up. So it's perfect. Only love that. Obviously not raspberry.
Yeah.
That's my ramble. So.
What about you, Spud?
Well, to be honest, lads, I don't know if I the way you're talking there, do I use it in the practice? I suppose I do in a way because I have a couple of hazel trees growing here. One of them's pretty big, and like when I was dipping my toe in Celtic stuff, I spoke quite a lot about this on the Tasta podcast. I was how to explain this without getting too long into story. So you look up,
go full Spud.
No, it's the way that you have your birth tree in the Celtic zodiac, So because of the moon phases, it kind of changes every year. So like I had always thought, because when you look them up, you're given a kind of blanket dates, just like the normal zodiac. So from whatever 1st of September until the 30th, you are a vine, and like, who the fuck wants to be a vine? Jesus Christ. They're a pain in the arse. I spend half my time in the garden just pulling up ivy going, I hate you. I hate ivy. I detest. And, you go down into the countryside and you see all these old houses and they're covered with ivy. And it's like, that is just structural problems. That's all you're going to have. What are you doing, man? Idiot. Burn that shit down. Anyway. So I was, okay, I'm a vine. Okay, I'll go with that. I annoy people, so I suppose I could be a vine. But then, like, I took the time to look up, like, on the moon phases, what it actually was. And so the one before vine I think it's supposed to be oak. But then surely my luck, mine was a weird fucking year, obviously. And I end up being a hazel. I was going, oh, that sounds pretty cool, because everyone likes hazels, especially in the Celtic lore, because some are cool and eating the hazelnuts, and hazelnuts are this, they're big in Celtic lore. Like they're hard to eat, they're hard to open, so it's all about the challenge of getting it and eating it, and there's wisdom in it by eating it, and there's always hazelnut groves around where there was rituals and stuff like that. And then learning that like the druids are supposed to have walking around with hazel sticks rather than oak sticks and stuff like that. So like having that kind of connection in your backyard was going, that's cool. And like, last week there I went looking for foraging for mushrooms, and it's a weird one because on the mountain that we usually go to, you just see tons of people coming down with their wicker baskets just full of mushrooms, because people are mad into it over here. And so I went to the opposite mountain and went, ha, no one goes over there. I'm going to get loads. And you know how many I got? None. 3. And so you found the reason why no one goes to that mountain. Exactly. There's a reason no one goes over there. But I found a massive grove of hazelnut trees. There must have been 60 or 80 of them. And there's like literally nuts on the ground. Like, and there's so much. Like, there's so many of them that like the wild animals are just like, I'm full. I can't have any more. Like, I just have to leave them there. I can't even look at another hazelnut.
Is there anything else other than fucking hazelnuts?
So exactly. So like I did the bad. Then I have to admit that like I like going into trees and finding like dead wood that I can use for my kind of wood art stuff. But with hazel, you won't find any dead stuff. So I cut down a couple of things. and I found some blackthorn stuff as well that I want to make some shillelaghs out of.
Cool.
So, yeah, and then coming down off the mountain, and there was a shepherd, and he shouted something at me, and I just went, oh fuck, and I just kind of legged it.
He was saying, "Do you want some hazelnuts? I've loads of hazelnuts. Do you want some?"
There's no mushrooms on this side, but if you just go over there, there's fucking tons of them.
I thought, I was just saying this to the wife. I thought I heard a thing up there as well. I was cutting down the first bit of hazel to make, because I want to make these kind of, the alpine, or what do you call it, Nordic walking sticks. You can make them out of them as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting mime now.
Cause you see loads of people going around with the aluminium ones. Like, what are you using them for? You just do something natural. So you can make them pretty easy. Just let them dry for a while and put a hole in it for the little leather straps or whatever, and then whatever, give them away to family or whatever. But as I was cutting out the first one, I had this tiny chainsaw and it was going, and then I heard this, and I went, oh, no, I didn't hear that. I did not hear that. That is not a ghost. I didn't hear that. And I don't know what that is. Just didn't hear it, and just pretended I didn't hear it. I mean, I have no idea now what it is. Could have been anything. Could have been anything. Could have been anyone. But it sounded like an 8-year-old girl.
What I was going to say was that like hazel wands are a big thing in fairy magic. It's kind of one of the main devices.
See, I'd always thought that it was oak, because we're kind of told that oak was the sacred tree of the Celts, and it doesn't look now that it was. It seems that it was hazel. Was their main graw?
Yeah. It does seem so. What I was going to say is, with that whole kind of figuring out like access to nature is a big thing. Not everyone has that availability,
Sure.
And I think it's one of the real tragedies of I guess the last couple of 100 years is that we've all kind of moved away from the land and into cities for whatever reason, or indeed fucking didn't have a choice. It's like, move in or we'll kill you, that kind of thing. That disassociation from the land with just the knowledge you're describing of where the mushrooms are, or actually there's a shit ton of elderberries around me, that kind of stuff. That there's a lot of that kind of knowledge coming back, and I don't really know why. I don't really, it's like we're, three middle-aged Irishmen, but so I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm guessing.
Oh, I'm definitely middle-aged. Yeah, definitely middle-aged.
Definitely. Yeah. You know what? I think it's stuff like the popularity of I know people don't like. I've gone off on it. I used to listen to a lot of his podcasts, but even said like Joe Rogan having someone like Paul Stamets on Stamets. I don't remember. Yeah. I think having people like him on that, because that show massive, and then people are like, oh well, okay, mushrooms aren't just the little white things that you have on your burger. There's loads of other different ones, and there's loads of and they're easy to grow at home if not, whatever. There's certain ones are easy, certain ones are hard. But yeah, I think it's stuff like that really that's making people kind of question.
I think there's a more. I think it's to do with prepping. I think if people think it's end times, and I think it's this kind of what would say the stuff that's gone through with Brexit now, and when they go and see empty shelves, and people go, "Oh, hold on, when this proper apocalypse comes, I need to be able to have my spuds," And so I think, and then there's kind of people try it and then go, "Oh, hold on, this is a tremendous amount of work." I thought this was going to be fun. I think that it's definitely an element of it,
Well, speaking to that point, whenever I kind of see kind of a conversation like that online, or someone like, well, I'm preparing for the apocalypse, so I've got some seeds. I'm like, you're fucked. You are fucked. Like, we just try growing that, see how you work, see how that works out for you.
I had a couple of tomato plants going last year, and for the yield they came off, I think they were gorgeous, they were great, but the amount of each plant was taking the bones of a litre of water every day, and I was just going there's no way this is worth it. There's no way. It's like I have to be doing more harm here by growing these in the water usage thing, rather than just going down to Lidl and buying them for half nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, certainly, there are vegetables that are not worth it. like in terms of say the space they'll take up in the garden and how easy you can purchase them. I think there's 2 points there. I mean, kind of to what you were saying, Tommie, about like, well, I mean, essentially food security. Like, we live in a time now where actually that's a real thing, or it's going to become a real thing, which is something none of us have any context for, right? Like nothing, no understanding of it at all. And that's where, I mean, I think there is an element of kind of people are going last year say like, I need to figure out how this whole thing works. But like, I used to grow about like 50 tomato plants a year, like, and I've started kind of moving away from that, mainly because I need to give that land a rest in my garden, just because it's taking the same minerals out every year, right? So
yeah, of course, yeah.
And I only went a few this year, and blight just took them all because it's just been like wet and humid, and it's just fucking the Black Death. So it was done.
Followed you.
Yeah, totally. But like, I mean, but depending on the kind of the varieties you pick, I used to get about 20 kilos of tomatoes out of that. I mean, but I don't know what the climate's like where you are. Like, I mean, there's enough rain that like you could capture the rain and use that. So rather than
look, I know. I don't know. Look, I like I say, I only have 4 plants. If I had done it properly and had been,
you're complaining about 4 plants. Fuck.
Oh yeah, that's all. Oh yeah, that's all. I did it totally arseways, and I had it set up. I didn't have it set up properly, but like I know that like if I was to do say pumpkins or turnips or something that's a bit less looking after, it'd be absolutely no problem at all.
Same as saying it no longer has a time limit.
Okay, thanks, Zoom.
Yeah.
Cheers. Nice one, Zoom.
Thanks for that. In the middle of this call. Perfect time to tell us. There's a kid. My wife has a preschool, and it's in the house here, or whatever. And part of the thing that she made a big, huge effort to was to, because we were talking about that we have no kind of understanding of food other than being in the shop, and then we eat it. So she started making sure that the kids got involved in planting stuff, and from seed, and she's grown pumpkin, she's grown she grew sunflowers this year. They're alien looking, and they get so big, like 9 foot, 10 foot, but like the seeds you can get out of them is ridiculous. But she a host of different things that she's going with them, and it's great because they love it. The kids love it because they can really appreciate it, and then when they get to actually eat it or whatever at the end, when there's a kind of the full circle of the whole thing comes, and so. But we didn't have that. We grew like a crest and a bit of mint in the cupboard in primary school. That was the height of what.
Do you remember those weird toys that had like they were like a like a kind of a potato,
and it was
go crest,
grass or something.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, Tommie.
No, that was kind of it. But it's like, but just kind of wondering, like saying about the primary school, like, like I grew up in a complete, in Dundalk, which is like it's the biggest town in Ireland, depending on who you ask. But and so like the grass we had, like a 2 meter by 3 meter bit of grass at the front of the house, and something just slightly larger at the back that was literally grass, and like no one was even planting flowers or doing anything. That kind of came later. But and like even around the kind of estate there was berries and stuff that would have grown in the bramble and stuff like that. But it was always kind of go, they're dirty, don't eat them. There was something kind of wrong with them because they were wild and
that's an
had an insect on them or something.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective actually, because we got I know exactly what you mean. There's always that kind of thing. It's dirty, it's weird, and it's like. But if my berries come in like in a plastic wrapper, I'm like, sweet, we're all good. We're all good. But I even had the same. We got like a couple of chickens back in January, and I've always wanted them, and like it's they're noisy. I can tell you that much. Noisy. We got two more a couple just earlier in the week now, and I have them. They have to be divided off. It's like fucking like two rival gangs, like staring at each other through the fucking fence, like a massive row. Yeah, they're in the cribs. Yeah.
Did it have like bandanas around their neck and
yeah. Little shanks for when it comes up. But when I first kind of got like kind of first eggs out, I can remember kind of being a bit weirded out by it, like. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Kind of like, and
I'm not sure I would.
Yeah, it's like Christ, like, and you got that bit closer to the source of it, and you're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this, and like now without bat an eyelid, like, but it was, I did kind of notice, I was like, oh, I'm a little bit delicate about this. But
these eggs are much better for you than the one probably any egg you've ever
exactly,
had.
And it's kind of like, exactly where it comes from. But what I wanted to kind of,
but that's the thing, exactly where it comes from.
Totally, again, yeah, exactly, what I was going to say is just to touch on kind of something you pointed out there earlier, Tommie, around the idea of like Catholicism and kind of more like Roman Christianity, as it were, how it kind of divorces us from nature. And probably there is that residual effect of stamping out the native religions.
For sure,
and then kind of the de-sanctifying of nature. There's a book called How the Irish Saved Civilization, and it talks about kind of like the Irish monastic society. Very popular in Ireland book. We are great. Thank you very much. finally getting the recognition that we deserve for saving civilization.
It's about the early saints that are going off and setting up monasteries in Spain, France, Portugal, Belgium, Germany. I think they might have even come. I think one came as far as Poland as well. There's loads of them. There's loads of them. Even now, like there's the University of they have kind of Irish names. Around these places.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and kind of like, and weirdly, the only shielding of gigs that you find in continental Europe are along the Irish pilgrimage paths. Like, I mean, they're very very few, but I mean, compared to the kind of hundreds that are in Ireland. But one interesting point that he makes in that book is he talks about kind of the division between Roman and Celtic Christianity. Now, like they're very, particularly Celtic Christianity, like it's just, what does it mean, right? Like it's a very, it's very hard to kind of pin that down, right? But in this book, they talked about the distinction between kind of Roman and Celtic Christianity. I think there was some sort of council in Northumberland, if I remember correctly.
It's about the dating of Easter. That's how they fell out, isn't it?
That was part of it. And basically, the kind of the British bishops could basically say, well, our lineage goes back to St. Paul and St. Peter in Rome, and then the Celtic guys were like, well, ours goes back to Saint Patrick, and the Romans were like, well, we win. So they kind of had this kind of spiritual top trumps, who was closer to Christ, and then that kind of the division happened, and kind of the ascendancy and dominance of the Celtic Christianity started to fade away. But one of the things was the idea of like the idea of like of sacrifice, and the idea of like within Roman Christianity, to become a saint, you had to be martyred. So it was a blood martyr. It was like, one would lose one's life to become a martyr. But when the Celtic concept was different, it was more of a kind of what they call loosely called a green martyrship. So it was like a hermitage. So this is why they were going into Skelligs and building, the little clahons and all these weird. I'm sure
there's a joke about the English. I'm sure there's a joke about the English loving glory and defeat there. Sure, there's one in there somewhere.
Could be. I suppose the thing about the Celtic kind of Christianity and the standard, it is like what it is purported to be, like, because it's a more folk kind of version of Christianity, and it kind of inherited an awful lot from previous people that were there. And I mean, it's like, I've heard arguments both sides of that, you know, like say, particularly around saying St. Bridget or whatever, we're saying, well, it retrospectively became a pagan god rather than it was a pagan god that became, I mean, like, I don't know, it depends on who you want to believe, I suppose, or what. But there certainly is, the flavour of Catholicism or Christianity you have, even in Ireland now, still has, for want of a better word, and it is a problematic word, a folksy type thing to it. Yeah. In that, you know, the whole thing of like around cures, saints are the business in Ireland, you know, more than, like way more than there should be, you know, if you follow the actual rules. And, you know, an awful lot of healing is, you know, passing around Padre Pio's glove, or, you know, something that he had, or everyone goes to see the different relics and all of that. And I know, like, I mean, it's not a, you go to Rome or you go to Italy and there isn't churches full of relics, but there seems to be a quality here where it's more about that than, you know,
there is, you're right.
It's more about the saints than it is about Jesus or something. It's all in that
or the Virgin, like, you know, where. And there is always some, you know, there is always some sort of kind of like lore-ish thing around it. Like there used to be the Child of Prague. Do you remember that? The statue, the little, they're doing this.
The good widow.
Yeah. But my grandparents were talking about, like, well, you know, the reason he's got two fingers up is because that's telling you it's like 2000 and something is when, you know, Christ comes back.
Oh, it's the end of the world.
It was the end of the world, really? Right? It was tied into that. And like
but doesn't Jesus do the two finger things in nearly all of his things?
He does. Well? Yeah, he's like mad into it.
2 minutes, lads. 2 minutes, lads.
Yeah.
There's a thing. I saw something about that a while ago. There's a thing how to read Orthodox paintings, and depending on their hand position, it's what their teaching was about.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't remember.
Is it like the kung fu stance at the beginning of a fight kind of a thing, where you say, "This is my
exactly, or you know,
Crane style, tiger style."
Yeah. You know, like in England, you'll see the
slightly orthodox.
In England, you'll see statues to dead murderers, like sorry, couldn't resist. Trafalgar and all these whatever. No, it's to do with if there's a horse on a plinth and they're on the horse. If the horse is the 4 feet are down, then he died in natural causes. If his 2 front feet are up, then he died in battle or something like that. There is a code to these as well, and it's the same with the hand positions in the Orthodox stuff. And with the Jesus paintings as well. You know? Yeah. But you'll have to look it up yourself. I don't remember.
Yeah, there's a lot in that in stained glass windows. Do your own
research.
Well,
do your own research. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you that.
In stained glass windows and the carvings of saints, it's the same thing. Like, you'll often see guys like they'll be holding like specific tools or like models of cathedrals in their hands, like that kind of stuff. And it's again, it's referring to their specialty areas. You know,
over in England, is there like the way in Ireland, like every village kind of has a well or a holy spot or something like that? Is it the same over there?
It's like it does exist, right? But it's not as prevalent. Like, you know, the way you'll see a holy well in Ireland, and there'll still be people going to it, and there'll be lots of stuff left there, and like rags tied to trees. You'll find some of that in maybe some of the fringes of like Cornwall and in areas in Wales and what have you. But what you do see here, and it's one of those cool. It's one of the things that kind of like, because if you're not a kind of a good Gaelic speaker, right, you don't really know what the names mean. Right, in the towns in Ireland, but here, like here you can get a bit of a grasp of it. Like, there's up the road, like there's like the River Breed, and it's literally it's referencing to that goddess Breed, you know, which was all across Western Europe. You know, it's not just an Irish thing at all. Like and like in Bristol, there's like the Bridewell, you know, police station, where there was riots recently, but it's like it's Breed's well, like that's what it's referring to, but it's all kind of being built over. So it's very easy linguistically to pick up the historical relevance of areas. You know, like the town of Bath is called Bath because it's fucking Bath there. You know, like it's handy. you know.
Just someone that goes, what we call this place? Call it Bath. Come on, really? Is that what we're doing? Right, okay, right.
Yeah. And but like a lot of our towns, like the English names, have no relevance to what the actual names were in Gaelic. And like Brian Friel would that play translations about specifically that, about kind of the British cartography of Ireland, where they're like, what are you calling this? They're like, it's Knocknagreen, yeah. They're like, okay, we're going to call that Taunton. You know, and there's that kind of disassociation of breaking of the language, and the language refers to the description of the place, the topography, what's that area known for, and then like a lot of it was, I mean, you know yourselves, like it was describing the area, you know, like
how many towns in Ireland are called Ballymore, like, you know, and that just means big town when you translate
big town,
or like
ask you, Dara, when did you move over? I know we've talked about this before, but
in like 2000, 2001, but I've moved back and forth a few times. And,
do you find a difference in the whole kind of idea of, you know, like the genius loci or the local spirits or the spirits of place? In that, did you find it hard to engage them when you moved more than like were they easy to access in your own turf than it was when you went somewhere else, or did it come into it?
I felt very dislocated for the first couple of years. Like there was a couple of things that stood out for me, and I think the main thing was that I couldn't remember the names of places. Like, I mean, principally for that kind of difference that I pointed out, like the, you know, it was the different sounding names. Like I was like Chelmsford and like you know, a similar sounding name. I'm like, I can't differentiate them in my head. And also like there was like, you know, we're on an island. Generally, you're pretty close to the sea. Most people are, like, so I've always kind of had like, well, the sea's there. That's my bearing, you know. And they kind of been inland. I'm like, or not near water. I was like, just totally confused. I'm like, where's the? Do you not have a large lake or anything that you can build a town on? Like, you know. So like, so that like the orientation thing of like the land being different took a while to get my head around, but it's also, you know, there is also the thing of like the spirituality with the land takes a while to reveal itself as well. So it's not that it's not here; it's also the kind of the spirit of the land is kind of going, well, who the fuck are you? You know, it's you know, it works both ways. You know, it's definitely kind of going. You need to figure this out. You know, it's not up to us to give you everything. You need to figure this out. You know, and oh
yeah, for sure, because like we were here before you, we'll be here after you. Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and there's actually loads of living practices here that are, you know, hugely archaic, and we don't have, you know, we don't have like active traditions in the same kind of rude health in Ireland in a lot of areas. Like they've got bonfire teams down in this area. So, and they kind of dress up very similar to Morris men and kind of, you know, they basically create this massive bonfire with a whole load of kind of rigmarole around it. Like they burn a boat near me, and like, and then there's a town a good bit over called Lewis, and there's a massive fire festival there on bonfire.
Just the one with the Pope.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, they build like all this mad do a mad procession with a load of kind of like mock up. Whoever is like the douche of the year kind of gets a model made of them and like thrown on the bonfire. But they go all out for it. Like, and there's another one which I attended a couple of years back called Ottery St. Mary's, where there's a thing called tar barrels where they just set fire to an old kind of keg, like a wooden keg, and they'll roll it down the street.
There's a lot of things go on fire over there.
Yeah, fucking love burning shit. Yeah. But there's this town, we're like, well, we're going an extra level. We're not just rolling one down the street, right? Yeah, and you have to be from the town to do it. And I love that parochialism. I love the fact that like, no, you can't just come here and run with the barrels. right. So And it's only the local people who do it. They basically have these big Hessian gloves and they wear these kind of cotton rugby shirts. And they pick the barrels up on their shoulders and they'd leg it through the streets with them on fire. Right? And it's mad. It's mad. And it's wild. Like there's like a massive big sign in the middle of the square saying you're here at your own risk. You know, and everyone's just there like with cans while like some dude just like laces it through the square with a fucking burning barrel on his back. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And like they work their way up. So it's like they start like with like little kids who are like 6-year-olds running with these tiny barrels during the day, like that are really kind of, you know, heavily kind of monitored. And then it gets to the kind of, you know, the teenage lads and then kind of up to the men of the town. And they bring out something that's like a fucking Nissan Micra, the size of it. Like, right?
No back.
Yeah. They're all kind of like the whole team of them bringing it around and moving around the square. And I was chatting to them kind of like, and so how do you like the barrel? And they were like, it's brake fluid. Yeah. And run around with this thing. And like, so there's all that kind of stuff. And like, there's like a Burry Man, like there's which is a kind of thing. It's an early, like February thing where, like, you know, those little burrs that stick to you, you know, and you kind of walking through the woods there. Right. So it's a guy covered head to toe in those. Like it's like a suit, right? And he's kind of like walking around, like kind of a swamp thing.
And then they set him on fire, right?
No fire involved in this one. I'll tell you what, though, he throw away that jumper afterwards. No point.
No point. You can't keep that one.
But
is there any like history to them? Like why they started? Like is it to banish, you know, demons, or is it just for a laugh? Or
it's hard again. Like it's hard to pin down. Like, but it's like it's in the same period of like Halloween, you know, and like between Halloween and St. Martin's Day. So it is that whole kind of liminal period of like the year is dying, right? And so and there's that celebration of spirits and kind of obviously kind of light still existing into the winter, into the death of winter. It's like it's very hard to pin any of these things down in terms of like what do they actually mean. But like, you know, like it wasn't long ago, like, you know, that whole bit from like Halloween straight through to St. Martin's Day had a whole load of weird things going on. Like the blood, St. Martin's Day blood sacrifice. So like that was, you basically like killed one of your chickens and you spilled the blood on the like when you say not long ago, how long ago? Like 100 years? 300 years? I'd say it was still going on probably about 70 years ago in Ireland.
Oh, right. So our grandparents kind of type.
In rural areas would have been doing that, like, you know, and that was just part of, but it was part of like what you did during the year to ensure, it was always hedging your bets. That's what a lot of this folk stuff is about. It's hedging your bets against, you know, the difficulties that we don't really understand. You know, like our difficulties are like we have to deal with, like, you know, financial collapse 2008, right? We got fucking COVID, you know, and now we were chatting about food shortages, but like there are difficulties where like the crop fails, I'm going to starve and my family's going to starve. So you hedge your bets. You know, that's it all the time. Like, you know, I'll pray to God, but I'll also sacrifice a chicken. You know,
but do you think it was that the sacrifice, was it in a sense of like prevent the angry God, or was it to stay in with the nice God? Like it's you know, because if you're trying to be in alignment with stuff, is that really, it seems, because we have this kind of thing that, you know, when we look at, say, something like the South American stuff, like the blood sacrifice, and like it's to appease the evil God. I often wonder, is it because sacrifice in general in magic is more about, you know, keeping cool with the, you know, the local things, whatever, rather than. Well, I suppose then when you get to the fairy stuff, there's the whole stuff around slighting them, and you can, you know, you have to stay on the good side and that. So
which is easily fucking done, right? You know, it's like if you read the stuff, like there is a whole thing around blood, right, and kind of blood being like
blood is the life, etc.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of like that for spirit entities. Like blood is just like full of energy, and there's that.
Spud is very, very interested in menstrual blood, aren't you, Spud? Yeah, that's one of your
key areas.
Your key areas. Yeah.
No,
he doesn't find it weird at all.
Should go on Mastermind.
Yeah. Your
Special subjects.
Menstrual blood and magic practice.
Okay, I promise to go on mastermind then with my chosen subjects in menstrual blood, but only if Alejandro Jodorowsky takes me under his wing and he mentors me in his knowledge of it. Yeah, he seems to know a lot. Yeah, that was interesting.
We did the last podcast we did, Dara. We talked about Alejandro Jodorowsky's psychomagic. And you know, it's where he does are you aware? You know what it is? But for people who don't, you have to do like a kind of a physical ritual in order to solve your problem, rather than just thinking it through or something like that. Or, you know, there's actually some sort of ritual and power. A lot of his stuff seems to be, and you get the period blood and you put it on your violin and or something like that. And it was interesting because they're saying that even though in a sense, because it's kind of like a taboo or it's a bit weird for, you know, because it's again, like the kind of nature thing, again, looking back, don't take those blackberries, they're icky, they're dirty. You know, don't talk about periods, it's icky and dirty. Don't talk about nature, you know, stay away from it.
Yeah.
But like in witchcraft, there's such a huge thing about menstrual blood. And I mean, blood in general, but they're like, particularly in the kind of, you know, like I've recently read Peter Gray's books, The Red Goddess and Apocryphal Witchcraft and stuff like that. Like, there's so much menstrual blood in those books, you know, like it. And it's just, it's so. Then I suppose it's if you don't want to kill, you know, your kids or whatever it is, you know, you obviously would go to or something like that. But but I mean, is that what it is? It like when you say you're giving an offering to Ganesha, right? And it's like say you give him Turkish delights or you know Maltesers. He seems to be you know something because he likes sweets. He likes those, you know, those traditional Indian sweets as well. What are they called? I can't remember now. But so I mean, like when you're sacrificing chicken, is that because the particular god likes chickens, or is it in lieu of a kid or of menstrual blood or something? Like it has, what is it? Is it a lesser evil or something? Or?
I'll tell you now exactly. So I'm just, I've gone to Wikipedia. We got the source of truth, the lodestone of truth. So in some parts of Ireland, on
doing our own research here.
I've used Google for sources. It was tradition to
pull up a YouTube video or something.
It was tradition to sacrifice a cockerel by bleeding it. The blood is collected and sprinkled in the four corners of the house. Also in Ireland, no wheel of any kind was to turn on St. Martin's Day, because Martin was said by some people to have been thrown into the mill stream and killed by the wheel. So it's not right to turn any kind of wheel on that day. A local legend in County Wexford says putting to sea is to be avoided, as St. Martin rides a white horse across Wexford Bay to bring death by drowning to any who can seize him. That's what it gives. So it doesn't give the actual rationale.
Martin's a badass.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but a lot of the celebrations around St. Martin's Day, it's all across Europe. Like,
man. You know what? It's funny. I live on a border town, so half my town is in Czech, half is in Poland, and the Polish side doesn't do anything on Martin's Day. But in Czech, it's not a national day off, but everyone treats it as a day off. And like all the pubs and restaurants have like special goose dishes. Everyone eats goose and drinks a load of pints. And I wouldn't say it's like a Paddy's Day because it's really cold that time of year, so there's not. But there's
not like the balmy, the beautiful temperate balmy St. Patrick's Day.
But here, you know the other thing, because I was just saying to Tommie, but we're saying this on the podcast about the taboo stuff. Like sometimes you kind of have to ask: is a taboo just because people say it's a taboo? And then even if it is just a taboo because that's a taboo, but then we should also confront that taboo. You know, and it's like it's just this. It's not paradoxical, but it's very illogical. Why some of this stuff is taboo? And as well, you reminded me of something there. Something else came up about. I think I was looking up this psychomagy on that must have been on Reddit or something. And there was someone highlighted. There's a saying in German to do with period blood. And it was well, real pirates sail the Sea of Red anyway. That was hilarious. So, you know, in Germany, then it's obviously not as big a taboo as what it is. But then again, Ireland, sure, come on, the three of us know this well enough. We were so blinkered in what we were allowed kind of think and question. Sure, like it's not that long ago. Like my parents, my mum was left-handed, but it was beaten over.
Yeah,
like that's how in Ireland was. It's crazy, you know.
Yeah, it's true. Interesting enough, a couple of shows back, I interviewed Dr. Maria Voivod, and she had done some fantastic documentary work in rural eastern Serbia with a very old tradition, which is kind of fading out, of what they're called. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the local language, but we call them as like fairy seers, and they would come and they would the word that translates them kind of is like those that fall. And they kind of fall, go into trance, and weirdly happens near pear trees all the time. And then these women develop a relationship with their fairy sisters, right? And the fairy sisters will come on specific Orthodox calendar days, and they'll go into trance. These ladies will go into trance. They'll sing them down, and then they'll kind of commune with your dead relatives and commune with the fairies, and kind of then pass that on to individuals. But one of the things that they're quite strict about is it cannot be done if anybody who's there is menstruating. They're not allowed in, and the language that comes from the fairies, who are by all intents and purposes female, is that it is unclean. So there's something about the presence of menstrual blood that these spirits won't deal with. Now, the other side of it is, and so whatever's going on, it seems to be very complex, because the other side of it is that when these ladies, reach at the time in their life when they stop menstruating, the visions stop. They don't have, they don't have fairy communication anymore. So that's
God Almighty. You've enough stress to be going through without losing your invisible friends, like it's so good, isn't it? Fucking hell, like your hormones are all over the place, you're sweating buckets, and then you lose your imaginary best friend. Fuck's sake, lad.
Oh, this is it's worth checking that out, because she filmed the trance process, and it was remarkable, and then she spoke to the fairy seer and got like some fucking like bullseyes as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, bang on. Like her dad came through and said like he's annoyed that his watch wasn't buried with him, right? And she went back to her mum. She's like, that this apparently his watch wasn't burned, and the mother's jaw drops and is like, yeah, I didn't bury it with him. Like, no one knew that. So it's like really like specific detail. So it's remarkable. But again, it's like there's something about blood. I mean, it goes all the way back to Haran. There used to be kind of the idea of like blood sacrifice again to engage with that spirit. Some spirits demanded it. So
your man must have had a decent life though. If like the only thing he can complain about is that I don't have a watch. It's not like, oh Jesus, I can't believe you just went to war, lads. What the fuck he's doing? It's like, me watch.
The thing about blood magic, I suppose, in chaos magic, when it's out of context, and this is one of the main problems, I suppose, with chaos magic, is that an awful lot of it is, in a sense, out of context. And I know that's kind of the point and all that, but it's like you see an awful lot of people rushing to it immediately. As like kind of, I started magic a month ago, and now I'm offering blood to Lucifer or whatever, and it's kind of. I'm kind of always hesitant, and especially when people start bringing it up around stuff that I've done, like the 47s or the 4 Devils or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, just don't do it. Like, that's not the system for start. But also, if you're doing like offering blood or mental blood or semen or any of these kind of things, what's next? How do you amplify that? This should be kind of in my like your last. That's your Hail Mary. That's the thing when you really need when you're drinking blood resin, it isn't doing it. So you might pull out the blood. But it's like, but if you're going, well, I need my rent paid, here's some cum, here's some blood.
Let me ask you, lads, what's your experience with stuff like that then? Because I'll give you mine then first, just to say, like for me, it's mostly seems to be just kind of giving them attention for a while. Kind of seems to be enough, and okay, they mightn't come knocking straight away, but if there's a divinity or a saint or an angel, angels is mostly what I would do stuff with, I suppose. It seems to be that just getting their attention seems to be enough. They're not really after. And so, what's it like for you boys?
angels wouldn't, but there is certain spirits who classically are, would, and that's kind of what's part of. But it's just like it doesn't. I'm not, in a sense, I'm not attracted to that kind of thing, because it's like I can do the equivalent, not doing that. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do similar things, but it's whatever you're attracted to, I suppose, whatever you find most powerful. And so you kind of have to go with that, particularly if you're going to go from, let's say, a chaos magic point of view, is that you're going to engage with the thing that is most powerful from your perspective, from your subjective feeling. And if that, unfortunately, I suppose unfortunately is not the right word, it involves some sort of blood sacrifice, then maybe you have to do it. But there's definitely other ways of doing it. And I would say before you get there, that's like not to gatekeep anything, like, but it's like, wait a while before you get into that kind of stuff. Like, you kind of
surely, like, it'd be better to kind of look up. Okay, so say, I don't know, you want to talk to Dagda in the Irish pantheon or something. Like, I mean, if you looked up something, okay, like, instead of just going for blood, maybe he likes hazelnuts. Maybe he likes walnuts.
Oh,
like,
no, hazelnuts.
No.
I love hazelnuts. That's what I mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Why go straight to the blood? Try the hazelnut, try the biscuit, try a glass of water, try a candle, and all of these, or just talk to the people. But
yeah, I mean,
it's so prevalent in magic, this stuff, that there has to be. It's not. You can't dismiss it. That's probably it. But I wouldn't jump to it. That's, I suppose, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, discernment is usually important, right? It's like, just take your time. I think that's the main thing before you jump straight into that kind of stuff. Work your way up. But like, I mean,
but it doesn't also mean that you have to go there either. Like, I mean, you can be fairly proficient and never do any of this. Never eat a cum cake.
Yeah.
Or any of these things. Fine. Plenty of magicians have it. It's all good. Like.
Do you know what makes me laugh is that, like, I started out kind of exploring these grimoires and working around, and now I make fucking chutney. That's how I imagine it.
Yeah.
But
but I mean, but that makes total sense, and like, I mean, can you imagine starting a magic plan? So, chutney is probably the most magic thing you can make. And you go, well, yeah, okay. Yeah. where do I cut my hand to get the blood out? Come on, man. Yeah.
Lads, I'm really appreciative of your time, and I've enjoyed the conversation. You really helped kind of formulate some of my thoughts on what is. Why am I?
What is this?
Yeah. Why is the garden making me go weirder? And kind of understanding that is really helpful, And I look forward to catching up with you again. And for the good people, where is your homes on the interwebs? Where's the best place to find you?
adventuresinwoo.com from me. Everything's there. And the Taska podcast, so you can get it from there, which is Tommie and Spud talk about. We do it once a week. Talk about everything. You should watch a documentary, and which kind of gives the kind of overall theme. But that sounds like it's not a rambling mess, because that's what it actually is.
The first hour is a rambling mess, and then we knuckle down and then talk about what we're actually supposed to talk about.
I like it.
You know what? Get me on Tommie's Discord. That's the best place to get me, because my website's a mess. Well, you can go to spudmurphy.net if you want. There's articles there about woo and occult.
Cool.
And his woodwork, his artwork.
Woodwork too.
Wicked. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Before we wrap up, just a side note. Do you use, as like fellow podcaster and whatever this is stuff we do, do you ever listen back to yourself and go, what the living fuck was I trying to say?
Yeah. I was actually this happened to me very recently. There was one thing I was trying to explain something to Spud, and what I realized was that I had started at least 11 sentences and not finished any of them.
Yeah.
So I said about the first 3 words of each of them, and then was like in my head, I love that. But it's sort of nods and went, I
know. There's this weird thing that, like, we're really good, man, at getting on each other's wavelengths and like finishing each other's sandwiches and whatnot. And like, and like, because the most recent blog post I did was about this vision thing I had, and it started off with a dream, and I'd asked Tommie to do a 40 servants interpretation because I had only remembered 2 like letters from the dream kind of thing. So he gave me the interpretation, and like the answer's fucking staring us right in the face. Like you pulled 2 cards for the first scene, 2 for the second scene, and like, okay, you had the idea, you were explaining it to me, but you were like, no, there's still something else here. Pulled another card and came to the conclusion, and still the conclusion, not that it wasn't right, but it's that there was a bigger one staring us right in the face, just going, I'm here, you dickhead. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You know? And it's just clear as the day is long. So it is now, like when I went back and listened to it, because I had listened to it already, but to get the reinterpretation of it again.
Yeah.
But this thing I had very, very recently put me back to that, and I went, Jesus, that's what of course that's what it was, you idiot, you know. But anyway, you'll have to go to spudmurphy.net to read about it.
Well, we'll put all them links, all them links below. Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. It's been good old chat. Right, we leave it there. Right,
take care of yourself.
Nice one.
Bye.
A big thank you to Tommie and Spud for coming on the show. It was really fun to chat to you guys. And if you want to find out more about our guests, then do check the show notes for the links to Spud's blog and their podcast, and Tommie's Adventures in Woo Woo site, which has all his artwork and the 40 servants cards, all that kind of information. So do check that out. That's it for me. Talk soon and take care. Bye.